Hello, my name is Maya. Welcome back to my channel. Today, yes, I'm in a new setting. I moved because my landlord sucks. So here we are with a new landlord and new roommate, and we're doing so much better. So today I'm going to be outlining the results of a very important scientific experiment that I gave to my best friends. Before I begin, this will be the first of 4 videos on these two Dean and Cas, if you did not know. I don't know why you click on this video if you don't know who these are, but maybe just for curiosity. My other video series is about everything else in Supernatural, but I do not talk about Dean and Cas's relationships. Well, except like when I bring them up every 5 seconds, but I don't analyze it. I just bring it up to make a point that I love them and that they're in love, but I don't analyze it at any point. But the point was, I wanted separate videos to really explore like the topic of Dean and Cas because I think it deserves its own time, and I didn't want everything in the other Supernatural video to be monopolized by Dean and Cas even more, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm able to actually spend time to talk about Sam and Dean's relationship, whereas if I had tried to put Dean and Cas in that video, the entire video would have just been about Dean and Cas. All the relationship would have just been talking about that. Sam and Dean would have gotten no screen time, and that's kind of like not fair because the main relationship is not Dean and Cas, it is Sam and Dean, contrary to popular belief of Twitter and Tumblr. So the other videos in my Dean and Cas series will be me rewriting Supernatural to make Dean and Cas canon, and no, it's like not technically me just being like, oh, he reciprocated. No, that's not it. I'm going to do the exact same layout of plot throughout all 15 seasons, but I'm going to make Dean and Cas canon earlier, in like an earlier season, and then have that play out throughout the rest of the series. And so then I'm also just going to make a video analyzing Cas's feelings toward Dean, and then a video analyzing Dean's feelings towards Cas. Yeah, I know it's pretty oversaturated video topic, but I want to talk about it, so that is what I'm gonna do. And then once those videos are out, I am taking a break from Supernatural because I think I may have let it like take over my life. I let it take over my life. It's fine. So moving on. The hypothesis for this experiment was, can I make someone ship Dean and Cas after 6 episodes? Now, before I reveal the results and how I ran the experiment, let me give you an overview of the episodes I chose for this experiment and why. So you may already know if you've watched my other Supernatural video series, but I have 478 pages of notes on Supernatural. I wrote notes after every single episode of the show. The notes varied in length per episode, but the main thing that I always noted was the Dean and Cas interactions, because I entered Supernatural with one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to figure out what the fuck was going on with Dean and Cas. I was able to figure out what the fuck was going on, but the cost was in fact my sanity, so I don't actually know if it was worth it, but maybe I'll look back on it one day and laugh. Like today. So what I did was I went through my notes and looked at episodes that I remember being super Dean and Cas heavy, because obviously I remember those scenes very clearly, and chose ones with the most notes and with the most prominent scenes in my opinion. So I would look, did I give the episode a high rating? Because I always gave the Dean and Cas episodes higher ratings than the other ones, just because I was having more fun. And did I also note down any like really important scenes or overanalyze a scene, or like did I spend like 6 pages on an episode, which has happened. I am insane. So what I really wanted to show when picking these episodes was that both Dean and Cas love each other. Okay, so I didn't choose episodes where the love was very one-sided. So it's basically eliminated any of the episodes where Dean was under the influence of the Mark of Cain, or where Cas was betraying Dean in season 6. I also wanted to make sure that Dean and Cas interacted a lot during the episode, because our time is limited. So this eliminated episodes where like Dean was mourning Cas, or episodes where they were doing group activities. Like, I love that episode in season 13 where they all go to that western town, but there's not enough Dean and Cas interaction alone for it to like warrant going on the list. This once again eliminated a lot of episodes. So I finally settled on season 8, episode 7, season 9, episode 10, season 11, episode 3, season 12, episode 10, season 15, episode 9, and then season 15, episode 18. I'm now just going to go over why I chose every episode briefly. So season 8, episode 7 may seem like a weird starting point. Why not show them meeting or Cas falling from heaven for Dean? But I really wanted to show them with an already established kind of relationship dynamic, and I feel like season 8 was also the most queerbait season, besides like season 15, you know, in the show's run. So I chose this episode. However, there were many good options in season 8, namely the episode where Dean is crying on his knees about how much he needs Cas. Such a fire moment, one of the top moments. However, I had to be strategic. Since I'm only showing them like 6 episodes, there can't be any supernatural attempts at like straight pairings clouding the episode. And of course that episode had the Meg attempt, which was my least favorite attempt because I fucking hate Meg. Like, bring back Hannah. Or I guess, bring in Hannah. Hannah came after Meg, but still, no. So I settled for this one for a few reasons. Namely, this is the episode where Cas comes back from purgatory, and there is just so much angst. There's so much angst. First of all, Dean is overprotective and angsty about losing Cas and then getting Cas back. Cas is overprotective of Dean because we can see in the flashbacks that he made Dean leave without him. There's also some great moments where Dean and Cas talk alone about their feelings and stare at each other angstily. Also, we can never discount the moment where Cas comes out of the washroom all clean. You know, he got his trench coat cleaned up, he shaved his beard and all that, and like Dean straightens himself up in his chair. Tumblr would gif. That right there is fucking gold. It just is. But this episode to me really shows how much they both care about each other and how like overly dramatic they can be when it comes to each other. It also shows their interactions when it comes to like emotional moments, like Cas admitting that he wanted to stay behind in purgatory to punish himself. So it's a good jumping off point for the rest of the episodes we're about to watch. Establishes a nice base. So then I chose season 9, episode 10 for some of the same reasons that I kind of chose season 8, episode 7. But this episode had the benefit of Dean and Cas working without Sam, which is always a plus when it comes to Dean and Cas episode. Yes, Carly was there, but he added to the relationship dynamic. There was like the no buffer of Sam. So they had more emotional staring and conversation moments. This one I chose mostly because I think it showed a great divide in the way that Dean acts with Sam versus how he acts with Cas. Dean admittedly is in the wrong this season in terms of Gadriel possession of Sam. I've made myself very clear about that. I still am pissed at how Supernatural dealt with that. However, Dean like never fully apologizes properly, at least in my opinion. I know he kind of like almost did, but then it was like psych. So like Dean never actually apologizes to Sam for what he did. He never has that introspection moment again that he does with Cas in that beginning of that episode. Like, in fact, as soon as Cas comes to talk to Dean and he's all upset about like Kevin dying and losing Sam to Gadriel, he beats himself up over what happened. And Cas just shows how much he just fucking loves Dean. By basically laying out the reasons why Dean did what he did and how it was out of love. And like another great example is the talk that Dean and Cas have while Crowley is hacking into Gadriel / Sam, and Cas is trying to distract Dean from Sam's screams, and Dean inquires as to how Cas is doing, and you know, they have a conversation and really talk about like how they're both feeling. It's such a quiet and sweet moment. And this episode not only had Dean and Cas communicating well in terms of their feelings, there is also something that is so fundamentally shown in this episode that I needed to show it. No matter if it like gets perceived good or bad, which it did get perceived badly in one of the cases of one of my best friends, but we'll get to that later. That is how much Cas loves Dean and the way he views Dean and Dean's actions from a very biased way. We are biased when it comes to love, of course, but Cas really does see the best in Dean, even when Dean is in the wrong, which he is. He is in the wrong. I don't take Sam's side often, but Dean was in the wrong. I think this is important to highlight in their relationship because though I do think Cas calls Dean out on a lot of his bullshit, Cas also views Dean's motives as love-based. He admits this like later on in his huge speech. So for someone to look at an angry and impulsive Dean and see the good of his action is honestly someone who's in fucking love with him, because I am also in love with Dean and I see that as well. So I understand. And then I went on to season 11, episode 3. And this was chosen mostly for the touching. I'm not even gonna lie, not even gonna sugarcoat it. I chose this because they constantly can't keep their fucking hands off of each other, and I love it. This episode, Cas is under the effects of the attack dog spell that was put on him by Rowena, and my boy Dean is an overprotective man. He is a husband, and he is in love with his husband, and his husband is fucking hurt, and he is gonna be an overprotective husband about it. He just is. I mean, Dean touches linger way longer than Sam's. Dean puts a blanket over Cas's shoulder and almost killed me when I saw it because I loved it so much. Dean cradles Cas's head when Rowena takes the spell off of Cas. This episode highlights what the season 9 episode highlighted for Cas in terms of Dean. Like, I really think this episode and the way that Dean acts around Cas and dotes on him indicates a very strong love. There is also another really fundamental part of this episode, and that is the end when Cas is attempting to apologize to Dean for beating him up, and Dean won't accept the apology. Cas was under the effects of the attack dog spell when he beat Dean up. Dean, however, sees this very differently because Dean beat Cas up under the effects of the Mark of Cain last season and feels tremendous guilt about that, even though Cas has obviously forgiven him. So this is very much a parallel of that situation. They're both technically out of control, though Cas was definitely more out of control than Dean, in my opinion. So with that what you will. Dean then refuses to get healed by Cas because he wants to feel the injuries that Cas gave him as punishment for what he did to Cas, which, I mean, like, come on. Dean still hasn't properly apologized for letting Gadriel ride co-pilot and Sam, but he won't let Cas heal him because he beat him up last season in similar circumstances. I mean, like, that act alone was enough to show me just how much Dean loves Cas. Like, why does Supernatural do this? Not to say that this episode doesn't also show Cas's love for Dean. You can't tell me he didn't lie on the ground longer than needed so that he could feel Dean's hand pressed against his cheek. You just cannot convince me that is not what he did. I would do it too. Or how Dean was able to almost like break through the attack dog spell on Cas just by, like, being Dean and hearing, and, Cas hearing Dean tell him that, it isn't him. We love that. We love that. So season 12, episode 10, maybe one of my favorite episodes ever, which is hilarious because season 12 literally made me hate my life while I was watching it. This episode, though, is just fucking everything. This is the episode that takes place after Cas kills Billy to end the deal that she made with Sam and Dean, where one Winchester has to die by midnight so they can get out of that Black Ops prison thing, You know what I mean. After they tried to kill the president who was being possessed by Lucifer because we ran out of ideas in season 6. Anyways, Dean cannot handle the thought of the cosmic consequences that could befall his precious husband, so he gets angry at Cas for putting himself in danger. But, like, the way they fight is like a fucking married couple. Like, at one point, Dean almost crashes the goddamn car because he's so busy looking at Cas while they were sniping at each other. Like a fucking married couple. Sam looks like he wants to die, being caught in the middle of a marital squabble. This episode is just so fucking funny and really has them fighting like a couple with Sam in the background, just kind of vibing and trying to survive. Not only that, but even amidst the fighting, Dean is still an overprotective husband. So he like walks in on the private meeting with Benjamin and squeezes himself next to him in this tiny ass fucking booth and immediately defends Cas against Benjamin because I guess the only person who can be mean to Cas is Dean, apparently. And then we get Dean rushing back to Cas's aid when he finds out that Benjamin is actually not a good dude. We get the scene where Dean draws the angel away sigil but can't hit it because then Cas will get hurt because he's too weak, and they are angstily staring at each other from across the room. Whew, it's good shit. It's good shit. This is all great on its own, okay? Except that's not all. The main storyline in this episode is that Benjamin fell in love with a human named Lily Sunder who didn't love him back, so he killed her kid because he was bitter, and then he lied about that kid being a Nephilim so he could justify killing it. The thing is, Benjamin makes the very canon claim that he is going to get Cas in the situation that he was in with Lily in terms of Dean. He viewed his romantic love for Lily as a weakness. Romantic. It is canonically romantic. Yeah, they aren't subtle about it. This episode is one of many where an angel will remark on Cas being in love with Dean. But this one does it so in your face And with like no other interpretation, you wonder how they didn't just have Dean and Cas fuck after this episode. You know, makeup sex. It would have been beautiful. Supernatural wouldn't have showed it to me, but like, we would have seen them go into the bedroom. It would have been fine. On top of that, this episode proves that Benjamin was wrong about Dean. Which means he was probably wrong about the love being unrequited, because it was unrequited with Lily, and he believed that Cas was kind of in that same kind of situation, but turns out he's not. Dean at the end of the episode does apologize, you know, in his own way, and explains that he was just scared of losing Cas again, just, you know, some cosmic consequences. Which, to be fair, Cas does die at the end of season 12, and ooh, Dean's reaction. Honey wasn't doing too good. All around, this episode canonically places Cas in love with Dean. Okay? It had to be included. This episode also very heavily demonstrates Dean's love for Cas, but his inability to properly express his emotions, which is something that Dean has a problem with all the time. So, season 15, episode 9 is kind of a no-brainer. This is the famed prayer apology episode. If you are unaware, I will now play you the entire clip because this must be experienced as Jensen Ackles acted it and not with me explaining it. Enjoy.
Cas, I hope you can hear me. That wherever you are, it's not too late. I should have stopped you. You're my best friend, but I just let you go. Because that was easier than admitting I was wrong. I don't know why I get so angry. I know that it's just always been there. And when things go bad, it comes out. And I can't stop it. No matter how bad I want to, I just can't stop it. And I forgive you. Of course I forgive you. I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry it took me till now to say it. Cas, I'm so sorry. Man, I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me.
Do you see why this clip would make this episode a must on this list? In fact, I wasn't going to include this episode at first because I hated Sam's plotline in this episode, but the thing is, this episode is pivotal for so many reasons. This is the episode that clearly shows Dean's feelings towards Cas. First off, Dean and Cas are still not on great terms when we start this episode. Dean and Cas have been fighting mostly due to Dean's anger towards Cas and his minute involvement in Mary's death in season 14. They actually broke up, which honestly was another amazing scene, by the way. Like, I love that breakup scene, which is hilarious because, like, I love Dean and Cas, but also I love that breakup scene. I don't know. Cas then came back after fishing and picking up a gin case and deciding he needed to try again. Because, you know, nothing ever changes if you don't try. Dean, being a stubborn, angry man, is not going to admit fault. So they have been bickering with each other. Sam and Eileen get kidnapped, though, so they need to jump into action to save them. This means they're going back to Purgatory. Purgatory is Dean and Cas's place. Purgatory was a place where Dean showed how much he still cared for Cas despite his betrayal in season 6, and it also showed Cas's love for Dean as well. So having this scene be set in Purgatory is symbolic enough. Another thing, is that Dean attempts to forgive Cas, kind of, but it ends up going south because Dean's fear of abandonment rears its head. You see, Cas left Dean because Dean was being so angry and wouldn't talk about it and like figure things out. Dean, of course, viewed this as abandonment and held animosity towards Cas for doing this. Cas points out that Dean pushed him away because of his anger and that Dean didn't ask him to stay when he said he was leaving. This is obviously what Cas had hoped for. This means that Cas was also feeling hurt by Dean's actions and won't accept a half-ass resolution. This causes Dean to introspect, for once in his very long life, about his anger and how it affects others in his life. The thought of losing Cas made him step up and do the one thing that Dean rarely does, apologize, and truly fucking mean it when he says it. He does so in a prayer that is emotional. I mean, you just saw it. And another thing, I think, putting it in a prayer, I know it would have been great if they did it like face to face, but the intimacy of praying to him, I love that. I love that intimacy, so I'm okay with it. So Cas, of course, forgives him, and they embrace as two husbands in love clearly do. Dean was actually going to say more, but Cas cut him off. Now, in this moment, Supernatural really said, we can neither confirm nor deny Dean's feelings, and stuck with that until the very fucking end. However, Cas most likely cut him off because if Dean said any more in that moment, Cas would probably get slurped up by the empty out of pure happiness. Dean chickens out when he gets told not to say anymore, and this is the end of the second time that Dean should have professed his love to Cas. The first being the scene in season 8 where it was fucking written out, right? It was written, and then it got cut because Supernatural will die on the hill if they can neither confirm nor deny Dean's feelings towards Cas. After this, they are back to being married. In fact, that scene at the end of the episode where they're sitting at together at the table, not across from each other, but like right next to each other, and decide to, as a unit, show their disapproval to Sam, is giving the parents who found out their kid snuck out last night to a party bus. Married. Lastly, and to nobody's surprise, season 15, episode 18. This episode has a scene that makes Cas's love for Dean canon. However, sadly, due to the Supernatural quota of not being able to neither confirm nor deny Dean's feelings towards Cas, we get one of the most amazing love confessions ever written, pairing with Dean saying nothing of note. Here's the thing. You can overanalyze that scene and find that Dean absolutely reciprocated Cas's feelings, and there was a moment where he was going to say something and then was yeeted to the side. The problem is, at this point, after 11 fucking seasons, I shouldn't have to overanalyze the scene to make it canon. This is the essence of queerbaiting. Regardless of the fact that the scene simultaneously gives me everything I've ever wanted and also makes me want to burn the Supernatural writer at the stake for their sins, it is an all-important scene. I will now show you the scene for those who are uneducated.
I know how you see yourself, Dean. You see yourself the same way our enemies see you. You're destructive, and you're angry, and you're broken. You're daddy's blunt instrument. And you think that hate and anger, that's what drives you. That's who you are. It's not. And everyone who knows you sees it. Everything you have ever done, the good and the bad, you have done for love. You raised your little brother for love. You fought for this whole world for love. That is who you are. You're the most caring man on earth. You are the most selfless, loving human being I will ever know. You know, ever since we met, ever since I pulled you out of hell, knowing you has changed me. Because you cared, I cared. I cared about you. I cared about Sam, I cared about Jack. But I cared about the whole world because of you. You changed me, Dean.
Why does this sound like a goodbye? Because it is.
I love you.
Don't do this, Cas. Cas.
Goodbye, Dean.
That being said, this scene alone was not enough to ruin Dean and Cass's relationship. It's the fact that Cas died and then Dean was just like, fuck it. Don't need to see him in heaven. Just gonna ride in my car for a while. Why? Or Dean not asking Jack to bring Cas back? I mean, I really love that scene that implied Dean had been watching Cass's death over and over again on the security cameras in the dungeon. He got himself so drunk while watching it that he passed out. Do you not understand how much alcohol Dean would have had to consume? He's literally a functioning alcoholic. That's a lot of alcohol. So the scene needed to be shown, despite its positive and negative connotations for Dean and Cass's relationship. So now that we have an idea of what episodes I chose for this experiment, let me introduce you to the worksheet that they had to fill out. Here it is. So at the top, you have to circle the episode that you're watching. And then we have the first one, which is more just like, I wanted them to brainstorm a little bit. So why do you think I chose this episode? Which, write down why you thought that. How do you perceive Dean and Cass's relationship after this episode? I kind of wanted to see what they thought. Just because, like, am I crazy? Sometimes I think I might be crazy. But I can't be crazy if it's, like, so many people, you know? So you can call me crazy for Sam and Rowena, but you can't call me crazy for Dean and Cas. You just can't. So I want to see that. And then if you were to name the Dean and Cas moment in this episode, what would it be? Explain. Again, I wanted them to kind of brainstorm. This one said, married couple fight when they leave Sam in the car. I surprisingly know exactly what they're talking about. If you do too, nice. Do you feel queer baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. I wanted to kind of see if they identified the queer baiting or not. Guess how many pages of notes I took for this episode, which is just more like, it was a fun little side competition we had going on. At any point during this episode, did you doubt my sanity and believing Dean and Cas to be in love? I wanted to see. No, they did not doubt my sanity. Thank you for that. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you ship Dean and Cas after this episode? And then I put a little disclaimer at the bottom saying this is for science, so answer truthfully. I will live another day if you don't ship Dean and Cas. Misha Collins will be upset though, so think about that. And I think they thought about that and decided they were going to ship. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over the worksheet, this was the main part of the experiment. But it was not the only part of the watch. I also created a drinking game that I will now detail so that you can be self-destructive and do it as well. I want to preface this by saying that one of my best friends, who we will call Subject A, could not drink due to being on prescription drugs due to a random illness that struck her 2 days before our hangout because her immune system hates us and our friendship. So she was completely sober. So her results were not biased. Subject B did have alcohol, but I don't think that affects her results that much because she still ships Dean and Cas now. So, you know, or she's too scared to tell me she doesn't. Either way, I stand by my conclusions. Though they aren't very scientific, as in my psychology professor would tell me this isn't the most empirical way to do things, but it was the most fun way to do things, so allow me some leeway on this. So this drinking game requires you to make different drinks for each category. You basically want your participants to yell out certain Dean and Cas categories throughout the episode. I played it as 6 rounds, which didn't end up being a problem because Subject A slaughtered Subject B in this game. And you don't have to play it as competition, but obviously we played it as competition because it makes things more fun and spicy. So here are all the categories I made so that you can try this as well. Feel free to make your own too. Someone bears their soul. and in brackets I put emotional talk. So this is like when, you know, Dean and Cas just randomly like to tell each other about, you know, what's going on in their lives. Someone bears their soul. Maya almost cried. Surprisingly, they kept forgetting this category exists because they would have drank more if they remembered. Almost cried a lot. Like, I almost cried when Dean put a blanket on Cas. I was just getting really invested in something I knew was never going to be a thing because I started watching after the show ended, so I knew they were never going to be a thing. Dean not understanding his emotions. Can imagine that this one was drank out of quite a bit. Overprotective Dean, again, another very popular one. Fighting like an old married couple. 10 out of 10 was used all the time in that season 12 episode. Interrupted staring. You know what I'm talking about. When they just fucking stare at each other and then they'll bring in like Sam to like break up the stare. And you're like, no, I wanted to see where that stare was going. Like, imagine if they had uninterrupted staring. What do you think would have happened? Like, if they just, like, do you think they just would have kissed? Like, because eventually they're just gonna have to like do something with that staring. They can't just stare at each other for like ever. You know what I mean? I don't really know. Disappearing Sam. I don't know if you've noticed, but the hallmark of a Dean and Cas episode is that Sam is conveniently somewhere else. Where is Sam? He could be anywhere, but he is conveniently not with them so they can have moments. And Sam, like, they literally just step out of the car and Sam's like in the car. That would be disappearing Sam, because just Sam's not there. He's just not part of the moment. He doesn't get to be a part of the moment. Bye, Sam. Cas's feelings are revealed either subtly or outright. So this was obviously meant for 2 episodes in particular, but you could have argued for like many more if you wanted to. Cas just fucking loves Dean. This is more of a subjective one. You know, you can kind of just see something and be like, yeah, he fucking loves Dean. But, you know, it happens a lot. Random instances where you're like, oh my god. Just even sometimes the way he looks at him. It's like a lot sometimes. Unnecessary touching. I would say it's very necessary, but like they don't need to touch that much. This one was mainly geared toward that season 11 episode, and oh boy, was it used a lot. Dean understands emotions. Every once in a while, Dean does understand his emotions. It doesn't happen too often, but like enough to put it as a drinking. Someone's apologizing. Funny enough, for like 2 people who don't really apologize that much, they apologize a lot to each other. Tumblr would gif. Yeah, this was definitely more subjective, but you could say basically anything because I'm pretty sure Tumblr has gifted probably every single moment of Dean and Cas's entire relationship. But again, I liked to have like more spice, like kind of figure out like what you would gif, you know? And then ladies is a gay too. This was the most fun category because I really wanted them to kind of like go out of the box, think a little bit. And boy, did they come up with some great ones to go with ladies is okay too. So those are the categories. You can obviously make up your own, but these are fun too. We had a great time. They really cater to these 6 episodes, so maybe if you're doing other episodes, like think of something else, but these ones cater a lot to it. I mean, ladies is a gay too can be for any episode in Supernatural if you really wanted. And Tumblr would gif, so anyways, if you want to try it out, it was a smashing success. You will need to not only correctly identify when your participants get the correct answer, but also grab the drinks for them as well, which was a little bit hard for me to do at first. You also need to keep score if you were doing it competitively. Obviously, that's not a requirement though. We took only 1 sip each time, or else we would have died from alcohol poison solely from the category ladies is the gay too. Because I always use a lot. And the most popular ones were ladies is a gay too and Tumblr would gif, because like those ones you can kind of use for anything and you can be more creative. All right, so let's get like into the results, what you guys are actually fucking here for. So I got subject A to give a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 on how much she shipped Dean and Cas on the 3rd episode. So it would be season 11, episode 3, the touching gets everyone. And subject B gave them a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 the next episode we watched, which was number 4. Which was season 12, episode 10, which I get it. So my hypothesis was proven. I got them to ship after 4 episodes, which was less than 6. So I win. This is a win for science. This may be the most important scientific work ever written, or I guess recorded, because you're never going to see the script. However, I would be remiss to point out that Subject A, after seeing season 15, episode 18, actually was so angry that she had been queer-baited. She said she did not want to ship them after that episode. However, overall, she still shipped them. I made her clarify for like science, because this is an experiment. She needed to clarify she still shipped them. She was just angry, which fair enough. I was angry too. However, these results are actually not the most important or interesting results I found. I figured they would ship Dean and Cas. This was an easy hypothesis to complete. I was like 95% sure they would jump on board eventually. And that 5% was definitely just the 5% leeway that like, oh no, I guess I can't be friends with them then. I'm joking. I'm joking, guys. I'm joking. What was interesting was their answers to the questions of how do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode, and do you feel that you were queer-baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scene. I'm going to read each of their answers as we progress through the episodes, and let me know, like, well, I guess in the comments. You can't let me know, this is not interactive right now. If you notice the results that like I was excited about, just, I guess think about it, you know? I will start with Subject A. So on the first one, to the answer of how do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode, she said, long distance couple who have not professed love, but everyone knows how they feel because Cas was still in purgatory. And then to the answer of, do you feel that you were queer-baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. She said, no, I felt this was a blatant and unapologetically gay. They even made jokes about Cas's dick, and Cas and Dean were full on pining for each other. Okay. Do you see how like right off the bat you're like, oh wait, what's that about? Move on to season 9, episode 10. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Cas is blinded by love, and Dean is seriously blind to physical and emotional boundaries. Okay, she was also pissed about this too. He literally hears Sam talk about how badly Dean wronged him, then Cas standing in the parking lot longingly watching Dean drive away. Wait, what? She was supposed to Dean. Do you feel you were queer-baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. No, I just feel like I'm watching a non-established couple. This is being season 9. This is 100% queer-baiting. And then you move on to like season 11, episode 3. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Love through and through. They love each other. They both know it. They need each other. They've hurt each other and are fully aware of how they care for each other. I mean, do you feel that you were queer-baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. Nope, they are a full-fledged couple in my eyes. Season 12, episode 10. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Married. Capital letters. I mean, watch, capital letters. Them give each other the silent treatment. Watch, capital letters. Cas express how he understands. Capital letters. Losing someone you love, even though he only underlines it multiple times, has Dean in capital letters with a bunch of exclamation points. They really do this. Do you feel that you were queer-baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. No, so gay. But yes, 100%, since we're in season 12 and it's bitch. Season 15, episode 9. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Final form of love, where Dean self-actualizes and confesses his love for Cas and all the ways he'd stood in the way of their relationship, i.e. anger problems. I might be overreaching on this interpretation, but I'm sticking with this. And you know you are not overreaching. This is correct, 100%. I agree. Do you feel that you were queer-baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. Yes, exclamation points in capital. Dean confessed all these feelings alone in the woods, but when face-to-face with Cas, when these feelings could be discussed and reciprocated, they didn't talk at all. This is true. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? This episode really makes it feel one-sided. I could tell that Dean and Cas, this is for episode 18 of season 15. I could tell that Dean loved Cas, and he admitted it last episode, season 15, episode 9, that she watched, not episode 17. Dean was being a little bitch in episode 17. So I don't understand why Cas's confession took him so off guard. He couldn't respond. Queer baiting. Would you say you were queer baited? Yes. So that was subject A, and remember that subject A went to a 1 because she said Cas should have had a beautiful gay boyfriend who loves him and treats him good. I do ship them though. Not in this episode, is what she said. Let's move on to subject B. Season 8, episode 7. I feel like there's a lot of pining and at the same time a lot of dysfunction. Like these bitches need to talk. She's correct. She is not wrong. That was for how do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship? Do you feel that you were queer baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. I can definitely see the energy. I feel like I haven't really seen a lot of them yet, but if I just jumped into Supernatural with no prior knowledge and you told me they were going to get together, / work together, I would absolutely believe it. So, she's a little bit more reserved than subject A. Subject A was just like, yeah, they're in love, which I love. I love that energy. Subject B, why do I be like that? I'm so sorry. Okay, season 9, episode 10. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Okay, my perception is that they've reached the level of the relationship where they're ride or die, no question. Cas is just all in with every weird or stupid thing Dean wants to do, 100%, and Dean knows this. Dean is so dependent, it's not even funny. She is not wrong. Not wrong. Do you feel that you're a queer bait at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. I'm still getting couple vibes, not even queer baity. I guess knowing it never happens is really indicative of queer baiting, though, like, I think we're more than halfway through the series. So yeah, she is correct. Season 11, episode 3. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? I'm seeing the relationship. I'm seeing the chemistry. I'm seeing a lot of flaws in the communication, but I'm also seeing how Dean typed up comprehensive instructions so Cas could use the computer. This was very important for subject B. Do you feel that you were queer baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. At this point, we're into season 11, and I can't say no. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the ultimate codependent couple of the century. Stop wrong. I haven't read these in a while. Do you feel that you were queer baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. My god, I see some serious queer baiting now. I see it really hard, and it's a little offensive. It's a lot offensive. Season 15, episode 9. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Dude, this is exactly the kind of emotional climax that their relationship deserved. Like, this was just the perfect scene to get us geared up for the end of the series. We got Dean having an emotional breakthrough. We got Cas calling out his BS. We got a love declaration. Holy shit. We were in at this point. Do you feel that you were queer baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scenes. I am seeing more queer baited. I'm being more queer baited than I have ever been queer baited before. That is exactly how you watch Supernatural. How do you perceive Dean and Cas's after season 15, episode 18? How do you perceive Dean and Cas's relationship after this episode? Angrily! Exclamation point, all in caps. Honestly, it was really weird because it felt like Dean wasn't into him ever with all the subtext. Can't spell subtext without SEX. Supernatural should go to jail. Can you jail a TV show? Can you do that? Because I think Supernatural should go to jail. Do you feel that we were queer baited at any point in this episode? If so, identify the scene. I am queer baited and I am pissed. She still gave it 10 though. I ship them and I ship them angrily. In fact, I'm gonna ship them harder out of spite. That's what I did. Yes. Yes, subject B. Subject A was just too whiny about it. What am I doing? Okay, so as you can see, they definitely identified that Dean and Cas had a connection and that they were either an established relationship or we're gonna be in an established relationship after the first episode. And honestly, they would kind of deny the queer baiting until like we got to the second half of the watch, and they kind of realized, oh shit, we're in season 12. They're not technically together, but look at them. They act like they're in love, you know? And it took subject A even longer to like admit to the queer baiting than subject B did. Mostly because maybe she was in denial, which like I was also in denial, so I feel you. So anyways, this is kind of super telling to the fact that Dean and Cas, to the untrained viewer, is written like a romantic pairing. This is not only proves that Supernatural knew what they were doing in terms of queer baiting throughout the show, but they wrote Dean and Cas in certain episodes, at least these 6, to be in love. Why I think this result is actually super important is because we as Supernatural watchers perceive the show differently than someone who's jumping in on certain episodes. We view the way that Dean and Cas act towards each other as normal, and though we clearly think they are in love, Supernatural won't let that happen, so we have to change the way we view things. But if you haven't been queer-baited for 4 seasons before jumping into that season 8 episode, all you see are 2 men who are either in an established relationship, pining for each other, already in love, or like gonna be in love in like the end of the season. And that's telling. My best friends were well aware of Dean and Cas and how their story went before watching the show, but I don't think they ever truly realized that I wasn't insane for being sucked in by Dean and Cas, despite buying me life-size cardboard cutouts of them. Yeah, I didn't buy these myself. I would not purchase these myself. They're also like, I know they spent a lot of money on these. They're expensive. I did not buy them myself. I was purchased these, but I love them too much now. So, that being said, I'm not insane. Despite the life-size cardboard cutouts. I swear, I have like an adult job. And neither are you, fellow Dean and Cas shippers, because they are written like a married couple. Misha and Jensen act the characters like they are in a relationship. The directing and writing choices are deliberate. Supernatural, you cannot tell me that you weren't queerbaiting when, to the untrained viewer, Dean and Cas are just a couple. So, or a couple men going to be like established later on. So not only did I prove that Dean and Cas are supreme, I also proved that Supernatural is a Lions gank. And this makes me feel good. Because at the end of the day, my Supernatural videos are catharsis for me. It's a way for me to yell at Supernatural for the pain that I went through while watching this during the pandemic over the span of 6 months. And I need to like exact my revenge. And I feel like Supernatural would hate this. So this is my revenge. Supernatural. You lying fucking skank. You were queerbaiting, you knew what you were doing. Anyways, that is pretty much all I wanted to say. It was a fun little experiment. I think I proved my point. Thank you so much for watching, and if you are interested, go check out my other Supernatural content. I also yell and go on side tangents there too. But the side tangents are about Dean and Cas because I'm technically not supposed to be watching or like talking about them. So stay tuned for the other Dean and Cas content if that's really all you care about. Because I don't really blame you, to be honest, because I don't think I would have made it to season 15, episode 20, the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life, if it wasn't for these 2. Because, I'm sorry, Sam wasn't doing it for me near the end. And Dean alone wouldn't have done it for me either. These 2 only. So yeah, that is it. If you also really liked the results of my experiment, unless you are Supernatural, then fuck you. Don't have a good night. If you're not Supernatural, have a good night. That is it. Bye.